In 2009, San Francisco opened its tallest residential skyscraper. 58 floors, 419 luxury apartments sold for millions of dollars each. It was supposed to be the crown jewel of the city's new financial district. 7 years later, owners discovered the building was sinking and tilting. The problem could have been prevented for just $4 million. Instead, the city and developers spent over $100 million trying to fix it, and the building is still not straight. This is the story of the Millennium Tower, and it is much worse than it sounds. The Millennium Tower sits at 301 Mission Street in downtown San Francisco. It was developed by Millennium Partners, designed by Handel architects, and cost approximately $350 million to build. Construction began in 2005 and the building opened its doors in April 2009. Standing 645 feet tall, it became the tallest residential building in San Francisco. Individual units sold for several $1 million each. It attracted luxury buyers from around the world. But underneath the building, there is a geological problem that any engineer in the area knows well. The subsoil of San Francisco is not solid rock. It is soft clay, sand, and fill, material deposited when the city expanded over the bay more than a century ago. To build a skyscraper on that kind of ground, there are two options. Anchor the building all the way down to bedrock, roughly 200 feet below street level, or rely on friction piles that rest on dense sand layers without reaching the rock. The Millennium Tower chose the second option. The foundation design of the Millennium Tower consisted of a reinforced concrete mat supported by 990 pre-stressed, precast concrete piles driven 60 to 90 feet deep. These piles rested on a dense sand layer known as Colmer sand, but they did not reach bedrock, which sits roughly 200 feet below street level. This type of foundation, called friction pile construction, is not unheard of in San Francisco. Other buildings in the area used similar systems. However, some nearby buildings did push their piles all the way to bedrock, precisely because the ground conditions in that part of the city demanded it. And there was a warning sign that was completely ignored. Shortly before construction on the Millennium Tower began, the city of San Francisco had already rejected a similar project at 80 Natoma Street, a 52-story concrete tower with comparable construction methods. The rejection came after an independent engineering peer review concluded the foundation design was insufficient for that ground. Even more telling, the geotechnical engineer on that rejected project estimated that extending piles down to bedrock would have added approximately $4 million to the project cost. That same geotechnical firm, Treadwell and Rollo, was then hired to design the foundation for the Millennium Tower. This time, there was no independent peer review. Millennium Partners refused to submit to one, arguing it would delay construction by years. What happened next was documented with scientific precision. Pile installation began in late 2005. By mid-2006, when the concrete foundation mat was poured, the building was already compressing the soil beneath it. The original geotechnical report had predicted a total settlement of just 4 inches over the entire life of the building. But before the tower even finished construction in 2009, it had already settled nearly 10 inches. 10 inches before it opened. By 2016, when residents were officially notified of the problem, the building had sunk more than 16 inches. And it was tilting to the northwest, 2 inches at the base, 6 inches at the top. The developers had been aware of the problem since 2015, but the public was not informed until the following year. When the news went public in 2016, a massive legal battle erupted. The Homeowners Association sued the developers, the contractor, and the city. San Francisco sued the developer, Mission Street Developers LLC, alleging that they had withheld information about the sinking from potential buyers. The developers, in turn, blamed the Trans-Bay Joint Powers Authority, the agency that built the adjacent Trans-Bay Transit Center, claiming that groundwater extraction during that construction had worsened the sinking. A process called dewatering that would have further compressed the clay layers beneath the tower, but monitoring data shows the Millennium Tower was already sinking well before the Trans-Bay Transit Center project even broke ground. The building had settled nearly 10 inches before that neighboring construction started. In total, 9 lawsuits were filed, involving 146 attorneys. Legal fees alone cost San Francisco $15.7 million, a sum that could ultimately fall on taxpayers. In December 2018, senior engineer Ronald Hamburger of Simpson, Gumpertz and Hager announced a repair plan. Install 52 piles along the north and west sides of the building, drilling 250 feet down to bedrock. Estimated cost, $100 million. Of that total, $30 million would come from taxpayers. Work began in November 2020. The plan looked promising. Then came the second disaster. In August 2021, after 39 of the 52 piles had been installed, monitors detected that the building had unexpectedly sunk an additional inch on the Fremont Street side. That 1 inch of sinkage at the base translated into 5 additional inches of lean at the 58th floor. Work was stopped immediately. City officials demanded a new plan. The reason? Installing the piles was generating ground vibrations that were triggering further settlement in the clay layers below. The attempted fix was making the problem worse. In August 2022, a scaled-down plan was approved. Instead of 52 piles, just 18, installed on the 2 sides where the tilt was most severe, along Mission and Fremont Streets. The revised repair was completed in June 2023. According to post-installation monitoring data, the building stopped sinking at the northwest corner. Engineers reported approximately 2 inches of tilt recovery. However, the original engineering model had predicted up to 4 inches of correction within the first 6 months. The actual result was about 1 inch, a quarter of what had been forecast. As of the project's completion, the Millennium Tower was still leaning approximately 29 inches at its northwest corner. The building will be monitored for the next 8 years, and the apartments, meanwhile, have lost significant value. In 2024, the average resale loss on units exceeded 20%. A penthouse that originally sold for $13 million was resold for just $9 million. Some units have sold at losses of over 52% compared to their original purchase price. In March 2023, during a windstorm, glass fragments fell from the exterior of the tower onto Mission Street, above pedestrians below. Fortunately, no one was injured. Let's go back to the beginning, to the original decision. Geotechnical engineer Demetrius Koutsoftas, who had worked on the Natoma Street project, testified under oath that it was widely understood at the time of the Millennium Tower's construction that the building was not going to be anchored to bedrock. According to his testimony, the reason was straightforward. My understanding was that there was no money to pay for it. A $350 million project, selling luxury apartments for millions of dollars each. and the decision was made not to spend $4 million more to drive the piles to rock. That decision turned a $4 million solution into a $100 million repair bill. And the building still isn't straight. The Millennium Tower did not collapse. It is still standing, still occupied, and its owners are hoping the market value will eventually recover. But what this case makes undeniably clear is how a single engineering decision, one decision made in 2005 without an independent review to challenge it, can turn a luxury skyscraper into a decades-long problem. $4 million would have been enough. The ground beneath San Francisco was already sending a warning. The rejected neighboring project was already sending a warning. Nobody listened. And now the bill is 25 times larger, and the building is still leaning